Welcome to Optimum Output. Have you ever wondered why people behave the way they do? Why do we often succumb to our weaknesses and impulses? In The Laws of Human Nature, Robert Greene takes us on an insightful journey into the heart of human behavior, unveiling the deep motivations and vulnerabilities that shape our every action. From our tendencies toward greed and short-sightedness to losing our tempers over the most minor things, Greene reveals the hidden forces that drive us. Imagine having a deep understanding of these forces, allowing you to navigate life's challenges skillfully and clearly. Picture yourself avoiding the traps and manipulations of others while mastering your impulses and weaknesses. This book isn't just about understanding the behavior of others, it's about mastering yourself. This summary explores the inspiring stories of legendary figures like Coco Chanel, Anton Chekhov, Martin Luther King Jr., and Queen Elizabeth I, who used their human nature to overcome their weaknesses and achieve extraordinary success. By understanding these principles, readers can transform their lives and unlock the secrets of human nature, free from inherent flaws. The Law of Covetousness. Gabrielle Chanel, known later as Coco Chanel, was only 11 years old when tragedy struck. Her mother passed away, and her father, unable to care for her and her sisters, placed them in a convent and never returned. While at the convent, Gabrielle discovered romantic novels, likely smuggled in from the outside. These tales of Cinderella-like figures, poor yet destined to marry princes, enchanted her, and she began to see herself as one of these characters, dreaming of a life of glamour and happiness. At 18, Gabrielle left the convent to attend boarding school, where she trained to become a seamstress. However, her ambitions stretched far beyond the needle and thread. As she explored the town, Gabrielle fell in love with the theater world, marveling at the colorful costumes and makeup of the actresses on stage. She decided she wanted to be an actress herself, and soon adopted the stage name Coco Chanel. Coco learned the arts of dancing, singing, and acting through the theater, yet she was restless. Her ambitions hadn't yet borne the success she craved. Coco noticed that wealthy men supported many actresses, living lavish lives as mistresses. Eventually, she too entered a relationship with a wealthy admirer, Etienne Balsan, and was invited to live in his luxurious mansion. However, despite her ability to charm any man, Coco was dissatisfied and felt out of place. One day, in a moment of playful curiosity, Coco explored Balsan's wardrobe and began trying on his clothes, shirts, pants, coats, and hats. In that moment, she had a revelation, an androgynous style, a bold masculine and feminine fashion mix. She abandoned the restrictive corsets and elaborate gowns of the day in favor of comfortable, tailored menswear, a style that felt both liberating and powerful. The actresses who had once envied her beauty now admired her bold new look, which suited her slender frame perfectly. Balsan, too, was captivated by Coco's transformation. Still, Coco Chanel had realized something more profound than fashion. She desired the freedom and power men enjoyed in society and intended to claim it for herself, starting with her designs. Her hat creations, adorned with delicate ribbons and feathers, caused a sensation, particularly in the Parisian theater scene. These elegant yet functional hats became the latest trend, inspiring curiosity and imitation among women everywhere. With Balsan's support, Coco opened her first shop in Paris, selling not only hats, but also her revolutionary androgynous clothing designs. So began the rise of a fashion empire that would forever change how women dressed. Coco Chanel didn't just design clothes, she created a movement that challenged the norms of her time, using her understanding of human nature and her desire for freedom to shape the world around her. At that time, women were confined to wearing corsets and gowns, but Coco Chanel boldly redefined fashion. Her designs were embraced because they were stylish and versatile, perfect for any occasion. Soon, the Chanel brand became synonymous with confidence, daring, and elegance. Coco kept her hair short and encouraged her clients to do the same, revolutionizing the standard of beauty. Chanel's clothing became a status symbol, especially among the wealthy women who flaunted their Chanel dresses and hairstyles at high society parties. By 1920, Coco Chanel was at the pinnacle of the fashion world, hailed as the most influential designer of her time and an undeniable authority in the industry. But Coco's ambitions didn't stop with clothing. She set her sights on something even more groundbreaking: creating her perfume. No fashion house had ever ventured into fragrance before, and at the time, the market was dominated by floral-scented perfumes. Chanel, always the innovator, envisioned something entirely different, a scent not tied to any specific flower, yet captivating enough to appeal to both women and men. When naming her creation, Coco chose something as unique as the perfume Chanel No. 5. Eschewing traditional floral names, she opted for something mysterious and modern, packaging it in sleek bottles adorned with the iconic interlocking C logo. Chanel launched the perfume in her signature bold style, spraying it throughout her boutique so that the intoxicating fragrance filled the air, drawing in passers-by. She also gave free samples to her elite clients, and soon, all of Paris's upper class was wearing Chanel No. 5. The perfume became a cultural sensation, ultimately becoming the best-selling fragrance in history. Coco Chanel had an uncanny understanding of human nature. She knew that people were drawn to mystery and the allure of the unknown. She cultivated an air of secrecy around herself, telling stories about her past and never revealing her creative process. Chanel was rarely seen in public, building an almost mythical reputation that enhanced her brand's appeal. She also infused a sense of rebellion into her designs, challenging societal norms that defined women as purely delicate and feminine. Coco's clothing was daring, bold, and beautifully unconventional. She broke every mold, from swimsuits to the iconic little black dress, empowering women to embrace a more liberated, androgynous style. Chanel No. 5's ambiguous name didn't reveal its ingredients, a masterful blend of jasmine and other flowers. Coco Chanel wielded the power of desire, mystery, and the ability to challenge business conventions to create an empire and achieve limitless success. The law of self-sabotage. Anton Chekhov was born in Taganrog, Russia, into a family that struggled to make ends meet. His father, Pavel, owned a modest grocery shop, while his mother was a homemaker. Chekhov had 4 brothers and 1 sister, and their household was marred by poverty and abuse. Pavel, often drunk, would beat the children, whether they were at fault or not. As his older brothers grew up, they became determined to escape their father's tyranny. Nikolai, who aspired to be an artist, and Alexander, who aimed to attend university, both fled to Moscow to start new lives, far away from their abusive father. Pavel's grocery business, already struggling, continued to flounder, and mounting debts left him desperate. One night, he quietly abandoned his family, fleeing to escape his creditors. This forced the rest of the Chekhov family to also move to Moscow. However, young Anton, just 16 years old at the time, stayed behind to finish his studies despite having no money and no family to support him. Left to fend for himself, Anton harbored a deep resentment toward his father, feeling abandoned and burdened by his family's misfortunes. For a while, Anton Chekhov found himself sinking into depression, overwhelmed by the burdens life had placed on him. But instead of letting it consume him, he made a pivotal decision. He would face his challenges head-on. Determined to change his fate, Anton began earning money by tutoring local families and tirelessly working towards becoming a doctor. He took on as many tutoring jobs as possible, while immersing himself in the town library, devouring fiction, and filling his mind with new ideas. Slowly, Anton began crafting his own stories, marking the beginning of his journey as a writer. He took great pride in being a self-made man, pushing forward with fierce ambition, while the world around him remained the same. Around this time, Anton received a troubling letter from his brother in Moscow, revealing that their father was again causing problems for the family. Anton's response was both committed and compassionate. He advised his brother to forget about their father and focus on self-improvement, writing, "Never think of yourself as worthless. You must prove your worth more than others." Over time, Anton forgave his father for his mistakes, realizing that perhaps Pavel had endured his hardships growing up, likely beaten and forced into a life as a merchant rather than following his true passion as an artist. The bitterness that plagued their father was passed down to Anton and his siblings, but Anton refused to be consumed by anger or resentment. He sought a better, more fulfilled life, grounded in love and meaningful work. Anton adopted a new motto for his life: work and love, love and work. He believed these were the keys to happiness and shared this philosophy with his siblings and through his writing. Anton spread this powerful message in his short stories and plays, encouraging others to embrace love and work as the foundation for a content life. 1879, Anton moved to Moscow to study medicine, reuniting with his family. When he arrived, he was heartbroken to see them living in a cramped, windowless basement in the city's red light district. The atmosphere at home was bleak. His father took on small jobs, his mother was burdened with endless chores, and his younger siblings had stopped attending school. His older brothers, both artists, were struggling with alcoholism, and the family seemed to be on the brink of collapse. Determined to improve their situation, Anton sprang into action. He began by cleaning the house and washing dishes, and his brothers, moved by his example, joined in. Anton used the money from his medical scholarship to send his younger siblings back to school, found his father a stable job, and relocated the family to a better apartment. Their lives improved slowly, thanks to Anton's unwavering determination and leadership. Anton Chekhov's life was a testament to his belief in love and work. He once famously said, "Medicine is my lawful wife, and literature is my mistress." In addition to saving his family from ruin, Anton became a voice for the oppressed, writing about the dire conditions of prisoners on Sakhalin Island and raising awareness about their plight. Despite facing poverty, abuse, and hardships, Anton Chekhov remained courageous and steadfast in his belief that work and love could change everything. His simple motto, "Work and love," remained guiding, demonstrating that a courageous person refuses to crumble in the face of difficulty. Chekhov's story teaches us that our lives can be transformed with the right attitude. The law of aimlessness. Martin Luther King Jr. was born into a middle-class black family in Atlanta, Georgia. His father, a well-respected pastor, hoped that Martin would follow in his footsteps, study theology, and eventually take over his role at the church when he retired. Although Martin respected his father's wishes and did pursue a degree in theology, he wasn't content with limiting his knowledge to just religious teachings. His intellectual curiosity led him to explore the works of Karl Marx, and he found deep inspiration in both Marx's ideas and the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. Martin was at a crossroads after earning his doctorate in theology from Boston University. He felt a calling to do something more significant than the life his father had envisioned for him. However, his father continued to push him toward becoming a local pastor, a role that would have provided security, but not the broader platform Martin sought to create meaningful change. By this point, Martin was married and had started a family, and he could have chosen to settle down in the North, where racial tensions were not as severe as in the South. Martin Luther King Jr. believed his calling was to address the South's racial tensions. He became a pastor and preached at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, focusing on practical principles like forgiveness and understanding enemies. At the time, racial discrimination in Montgomery was at a breaking point. Segregation was strict, and whites and blacks often clashed in public spaces. Buses had designated seats for white people, and black passengers who dared to sit in those seats were jailed. Martin quickly became active in the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. But when offered the organization's presidency, he declined. He believed his true power to serve lay within the church. Still, he stayed connected with the NAACP and was well known as Dr. King. Then, in 1955, a pivotal moment occurred. An elderly black woman named Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat in the whites-only section of a public bus. She was arrested, and news of the incident spread like wildfire through the community. In response, the entire black community of Montgomery boycotted the public bus system, initially for just one day, but the strike extended into weeks. The community recognized the need for a more organized effort, so they formed the Montgomery Improvement Association and called on Dr. King to lead it. This time, he accepted the leadership role, understanding the gravity of the moment and the need to guide his people. Dr. King gave powerful speeches that rallied the black community, encouraging peaceful resistance and nonviolent protest, principles that Gandhi heavily inspired. He preached that they would win the battle against segregation through patience and perseverance. The boycott lasted over a year, with Dr. King standing strong alongside his people. Ultimately, their persistence led to a victory. Segregation on Montgomery buses was abolished. However, this fight came with significant personal risk for Dr. King. He became a target for white supremacists, receiving death threats and even being arrested under pretenses such as speeding. One night, after a particularly threatening phone call warning him to leave town or face violence, Martin felt an overwhelming sense of fear for his wife and newborn daughter. He prayed to God, admitting he felt weak and unsure how to proceed. In his quiet prayer, he sensed a voice urging him to stand firm, fight for justice, and do what was right. A few days later, his house was bombed. Miraculously, his wife and daughter were unharmed. As an angry crowd of black supporters gathered at his home, ready to retaliate against white attackers, Dr. King once again called for nonviolence. "We must not hate our enemies," he told them. "We must love them." His powerful words diffused the tension and reminded everyone that their fight was not one of hatred, but of love and justice. Months later, the Supreme Court ruled that segregation on public buses in Montgomery was unconstitutional, and black people were finally free to sit anywhere they wanted. On that historic day, Dr. King became the first black man to sit freely on a Montgomery bus, marking a monumental victory for the civil rights movement. Humans often struggle with aimlessness, and even Martin Luther King Jr. experienced moments where he wasn't sure of his life's purpose. The pressure from his father had initially held him back, and though he wanted to choose his path, he felt obligated to follow his father's expectations. However, certain events, like Rosa Parks' brave defiance, pushed him toward his true calling. He realized his purpose was to guide people toward justice and serve humanity with love. Despite his initial fear and hesitation, Martin found the courage to listen to his inner voice and became a leader who changed the course of history. Despite facing countless death threats, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. remained steadfast in his mission to fight for justice and equality. His tireless efforts ended racial segregation and left an indelible mark on history. King's work helped dismantle a system of oppression and brought hope and change to millions of lives. His legacy as a civil rights and equality champion will be remembered for generations. The law of fickleness. Queen Elizabeth I ascended to the throne of England at just 25 years old in 1559. As tradition dictated, her reign began with a grand procession through London. However, the country she inherited was in turmoil. The government was drowning in debt, and society was plagued with crime, with thieves and beggars filling the streets. However, perhaps the most significant challenge Elizabeth faced was the religious conflict between Protestants and Catholics, tearing the country apart. Her father, Henry VIII, had established Protestantism as the official religion of England. Still, his eldest daughter, Queen Mary, later declared Catholicism the only faith, sparking a bloody civil war that earned her the nickname Bloody Mary. When Elizabeth became queen, there was uncertainty about what kind of ruler she would be. After all, she had no prior leadership experience, and much of England knew little about her. She was the daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, his second wife, who was executed when Elizabeth was only 3 years old. As a result, Elizabeth was a mystery to her people. At her coronation, Elizabeth embarked on a grand procession through a London adorned with festive decorations, musicians, and jesters. She wore a magnificent golden robe encrusted with jewels, dazzling the crowd. But it wasn't just her appearance that captivated the people, her warm, approachable demeanor. Unlike many royals who maintained a distance from the public, Elizabeth mingled with her subjects, speaking to them kindly and simply. An older woman handed her a sprig of rosemary, which Elizabeth held for the procession. She smiled, listened, and made eye contact with the crowd, winning their hearts. From that day forward, Elizabeth was seen as the people's queen, a monarch who connected with her subjects personally. Her chief advisor, William Cecil, had secretly plotted to control the throne, assuming that a woman would be too weak to govern independently. He and other advisors believed that her husband would hold the real power once Elizabeth married, allowing them to manipulate the country's governance. Cecil and his colleagues underestimated Elizabeth. Elizabeth was deeply involved in governance, unlike her father, Henry VIII, who often left state affairs to his advisors in favor of hunting and leisure. She worked late into the night, personally handling state matters and foreign affairs. When Spain attempted to instigate war in Europe, Elizabeth strategically hinted at marriage to the leader of France, causing Spain to retreat out of fear of an English-French alliance. And if France or Spain created trouble, she would shift her attention to Austria, suggesting an English-Austrian alliance. Through these clever diplomatic maneuvers, Elizabeth kept the balance of power in her favor without ever committing to marriage. When Parliament pressured her to marry by threatening to cut royal funding, Elizabeth would feign interest in various princes, kings or dukes, giving the illusion of a forthcoming union. Once she secured the necessary support, she would withdraw her marriage proposals with an excuse. This strategy allowed her to rule England independently for years, proving she didn't need a husband to lead effectively. While political leaders often let power make them reckless or impulsive, Queen Elizabeth was the opposite. She was calculated and strategic, constantly aware of the responsibilities of her position. She ruled through respect, not fear, and set an example for those around her, proving that authentic leadership comes from character and commitment to doing what is right. Conclusion. In this audiobook summary, we've explored 4 fundamental laws of human nature through the stories of iconic individuals who transcended their weaknesses. Coco Chanel and the law of covetousness demonstrated the magnetic power of mystery, showing how businesses can thrive by maintaining an element of intrigue. Anton Chekhov exemplified the law of self-saboteur, proving how a positive mindset can transform life and the lives of those around you. Martin Luther King Jr. taught us the law of aimlessness, illustrating how discovering and pursuing a higher purpose can lead to monumental success. Queen Elizabeth I embodied the law of fickleness, showing true leaders set examples and earn respect through consistency and integrity, not manipulation. Human nature is complex and filled with strengths and weaknesses, but we have the power of free will, the ability to rise above our weaknesses and improve our lives. The stories of these remarkable figures remind us that we, too, can overcome our flaws and build solid and admirable characters. Thank you for listening to this audiobook summary. We hope it has provided valuable insights and practical tools for understanding and navigating human nature. Please like, comment, and share if you found these insights helpful. Subscribe to our channel for more book summaries and personal development content. Be sure to explore the other summaries we regularly upload, all available for free. Keep learning and growing with us.